Good evening and welcome. Welcome to Lessons with Reverend Barbara. This evening, we are practicing patience and love, expressing love and patience in all of our affairs, expressing the desire to have harmonious relationships. I am expressing the desire to have a harmonious relationship with God, to have a harmonious relationship with others, to express myself and allow others free expression. To develop a harmonious relationship with myself, others, with things. A harmonious relationship with all things, with audio, visual, with the computer, with the bandwidth, our harmonious relationship. I declare this, I declare this today. I declare this evening. If you're in the morning, this is good morning to you, this is good afternoon to you, this is good evening to you, or this is good night to you. I declare peace and harmony with all people, places, things, situations, and experiences. All is well, all is good, all is God. In the very name, nature, and power in the name of all there is, I am very grateful to you, God, that you hear me now. Okay, a moment of silence. We've had our moment of silence, and we've had our candles, and in the background, I have incense, jasmine incense going, and I want this to go forth out into the universe, knowing that all is well, all is God, all is good, all is well, all is God, all is good. Yes, it is. Okay, now I need to say, for whatever reason, that this is my third time attempting to present this lesson. I have present this is my third time today. The first time was from 11 to 12. The second time was from 6:10 until approximately 7:11 here on the East Coast. And now it is 8:14. And everything, for whatever reason, happens in threes. So I can only hope that the audio and the visual does what it's supposed to do, because this is the last broadcast. This is the last one. So I hope that everything works itself out, and I know it will, because there is God and God is all there is. Now, this is step 7 of the 12-step series, for the 12-step series to include the 12 spiritual powers. Now, the thing about the 12 spiritual powers is, remember, this is strictly an overview when it comes down to the 12 spiritual powers. This is not the in-depth study yet of the 12 powers. Right now, the overall focus is for the recovery folk. Once we do the 12 steps, then we will go into deep, not deep, but the focus will be more on the powers. Okay, 12 powers. Feel more. All right. But I felt it apropos, since the 12 steps are metaphysical in nature, then go ahead and overlap not overlap, but blend in a little bit of the 12 powers. Okay. So after this, after step 7, we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Step 8 has to do with brotherly love. That would be that's a very, very interesting topic, brotherly love. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and screen share, for the simple reason that it seems as though I'm going to circumvent any situation. I'm about to circumvent it right now. And after 3 times, I can only hope that I've learned something by now. And so I've learned to circumvent. When I see a hole in the middle of the street, I have a choice. I could walk down the street. I walk down the street, I see a hole in the street. I step in the hole. I walk down the street, I see a hole in the street. I walk into the hole. I walk down the street, I see a hole in the street. I'm aware that there's a hole in the street, but I step in the hole. I walk down the street, I see a hole in the street. I walk around the hole. I take another street. There's a message in there. Okay, let us move on. Screen share. Here we go. It took 3 times today for me to get it, but you know what? It takes whatever it takes. Is that not right, ladies and gentlemen? Sometimes we learn our lessons straight up, and sometimes we don't learn our lessons straight up. This won't take that long. Let me tell you why. Because I have, I hate to say this, but this is going to be an abbreviated version, because it just is. So now here I am doing my part. I'm present. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Here I am. And now I have this in front of me. I don't know what that means, but that's okay. If it doesn't go, you know what? The first time it was a bandwidth problem. First was bandwidth. All right. If you see the first video, it's there, bandwidth. I was someplace else, and the bandwidth, I don't know what it was. Then just now, an hour ago, I tried it again, and then it was there was no sound. Okay. Now I'm trying it again, and it reads, the following pages have become unresponsive. You can wait for them to become responsive or kill them. I don't know what that means, but I know there has to be a reason why 3 times I'm trying to present this one lesson, one little lesson on stumbling blocks and stepping stones. This is not difficult, ladies and gentlemen. That's all I'm trying to do, is parallel the difference between the pros and cons, and how to have a different viewpoint on the difference between a stepping stone and a stumbling block. And so, and all of that, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just going to sit and talk to you, and I can only hope that this goes through. Okay? I ought not need any notes after today. After today, I ought not need any notes. Okay. So today is still May 7th, and it is 8:20 here on the East Coast. And I'm Reverend Barbara, and I'm a faith-filled person. I am very faith-filled. I am. I try to, I walk the path. I walk the way, and I live the way. And all I was really trying to do is just present a lesson, but it looks like I'm going to have to go by memory, and that's okay. Stepping stones, stumbling blocks. Stepping stones are positive. It's a positive consciousness. Stumbling blocks is not positive because it's all a mind game. It's perception. Okay, it's all a mind game. So if I see a situation, and the situation is, it just depends on how I view a situation. I can say that the glass is half full, or I can say that the glass is half empty. But whatever it is, the bottom line is it's not full. And so it is with the situation that I'm experiencing here now with, and I'm going to use this situation as a classic example. All right. Now, this here, what I'm experiencing, one could say it is a stumbling block. None of the windows that I'm supposed to have open, the notes, copious notes, PowerPoint, you've seen PowerPoint. And I keep getting a message in this block. One side says, kill the page. And then the other side of the same block says, wait. Well, I'm choosing to not kill. So I'm going to proceed because I have a choice. I'm not going to kill, and I'm not going to wait. So I'm simply going to proceed. I don't know if you could see that sign that comes up, but it comes up. All right. So when we have a stumbling block in our way, it's all perception, it's all mind, and how we're going to get around it. All right. How we're going to modify our thinking. That's something else that I brought up earlier today. There's a school of thought which says change our thinking, change our life. But we could always, since change is such a dramatic word in some circles, one could say modify our thinking, modify our life, modify our thinking, modify our lifestyle. So it's all about revision. It's all about revising. It's all about addendum or an amendment. Okay. So any synonym you can think of besides the word change. Change is a very dramatic. It's like changing an attire, changing clothes, where you're stripping everything off. Whereas when I say I change my behavior, it's like stripping everything. And some can relate to the concept of stripping everything at once. Some need an easier concept to work with. All right. So that's one. The other point I made twice earlier today, and I want to say this, various individuals that do not know each other emails me or see me in passing, and they ask me, why do I use so many different words for the word God? Well, you have to understand that we all walk our path in life. We've all had our past experiences growing up, based upon the way and method and mode the concept of God was presented to us. Some of us had some exposure to a spiritual practice. Some had no exposure. We had to find it out on our own. Either way, out of respect for the way spirituality or religion was introduced to the students that listen in here and participate, out of respect, I've learned that why some individuals have a problem with the word God. Maybe when they were younger, they were disappointed. Something may have happened. They may have, as children, asked for something, and whatever it was denied them. So there was an element of blame there. I respect any reason for someone being uncomfortable with the word God. Also, I have to understand that there's concepts of what God is, what God means to individuals. Some individuals grew up thinking that, or believing, or being told that God was a punishing God. Some individuals grew up thinking that God was a punishing God. Some individuals grew up not even allowed to ask any questions about what God was. There are schools of thought that believe that the word God is so sacred that we're not even supposed to pronounce the word. The word is supposed to be capital G hyphen D, because that name, that term is sacred. That there was a school of thought that believed that. There are other schools of thought that simply believe that they really have no belief per se, and they're finding their way. When I use the word God, and if you notice, I use other words too. I use other terms for many reasons. When I use the word God, it's because I grew up with that word, but I never really knew what it meant, actually. I mean, I never had a concept. I just knew that it was something or someone that I ought to be afraid of. That's what I thought. You have to understand my upbringing. I grew up, I'll make this fast. I grew up as a Baptist, and I'll never forget, I was sitting in the balcony. I think I had to be about maybe 8 years old. I may have told the story before. I was about 8 or 9 years old. This was a big church in Miami. The name of the church was St. John Baptist Church. It was, and probably still is, on Northwest 3rd Avenue between 13th and 14th Street on 3rd Avenue. Big church. And it's a huge congregation, huge. And us kids, we sat up in the balcony for whatever reason. And I will never forget, as long as I live, there were some ladies downstairs in the congregation, and the ladies were downstairs screaming and hollering, and the ushers were over to these different women in different sections of the church. It would be like 5 over here screaming and hollering. It'd be like 2 and 3 over there. It'd be 1 and 2 in the front, and it would be some in the choir. And I'm thinking to myself, and the girl that we would go to church together, her name was Beverly Robinson. And I said, why are they screaming? And so Beverly said, because they have the Holy Ghost. And the only word I locked into was ghost. And I'm thinking, a ghost is roaming around in the room, and these ladies see it, and they're afraid, and they're screaming. And I want you to know that I was afraid, because I was hoping that ghost did not come upstairs into that balcony. And I want you to know that ghost never came upstairs to the balcony. None of us screamed and hollered. None of the kids, we never screamed and hollered. But you must know, I have the need for you to know that I was afraid. Many years I was afraid that the ghost was going to come, that the Holy Ghost was going to come. So that is my introduction to a source of all there is. So I was afraid of the Holy Ghost. So we all have our introductions to Spirit, God. I mean, it's a wonder that I haven't sat here thus far. I've said many terms, but I've never said Holy Ghost. Never. I may have said Holy Spirit. I may have said that somewhere in my travels. But so having that said, I respect everyone's belief system and everyone's introduction and concept of what they believe in as far as a higher power, God, is concerned. I wish there was one word that I could use that everybody felt comfortable with, but I can't think of any. I cannot think of, because we all come from many avenues. We all come from many directions to arrive at one place. And that one place is whatever you believe to be bliss and harmony. Okay? Because I would imagine that is the ultimate goal of engaging in spirituality, or engaging in some form of spiritual practice or some form of meditation, to become centered and to find it. It's part of the process of finding one's way. Okay? Like for me, being lost in a forest once upon a time, metaphorically, being lost in a forest, trying to find my way out of the forest, maybe a little breadcrumbs along the way helped me to find my way out. And so we're all on some level finding our way on a daily basis. Okay? We have experiences, challenges in life, learning experiences that are teaching us the way, guiding us inwardly. Okay, remember now, the peace, our peace, my peace, is not out there. Oh, how I wish it was, but it isn't. My peace that I'm trying to find is in here. There's a lot of distractions out there. There's a lot of distractions. But those distractions, or those stumbling blocks, are the stepping stones that are allowing me to find my way into peace, divinity, harmony. So when I use a word such as G-D, then you, to those of you that it applied to, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. If you feel more comfortable with another word, then by all means. My intention is not to, as an oversight, use one word continuously, because then it will be coming across as a religion. And the 12 steps is not religious. When Bill and Bob wrote the 12 steps, they came from their own level of awareness. One of Bill and Bob, one was a medical doctor, and the other one worked on Wall Street, was a, we call the guys work on Wall Street, okay? They stockbrokers. So, and this was back in 39. 35. So this was their level. This was their jargon. This was their consciousness, their level of awareness. So there are some individuals that have the impression that 12 steps is a religious because of the word God. You understand? And that's because, and it's not wrong, it's only because of the concept that we carry. Sure, I could continue to walk around as old as I am with an 8-year-old awareness that there is a ghost roaming around that will scare me. And I'm not being facetious. I'm not being facetious. I actually thought that when I was 8. Actually, I thought that until I was somewhere around 12, to be honest with you. And then I kind of broke away from the tradition, from the traditional going to church. I broke away from that, okay? And I stayed away from it until I found New Thought, until I found a New Thought center. Now, understand something. I sit here and every presentation, I always present New Thought thinkers. I always do this. Those that practice spirituality, those that practice mysticism. I do this because Bill and Bob, they introduced mysticism in their own way. Anytime you have somebody saying they had a spiritual awakening while they're in a detox facility and they had a spiritual awakening, it could be one of two things. Either they really did have a spiritual awakening or they were going through delirious tremens. But then that takes me back to Mr. Swedenborg, Manuel Swedenborg. He was not an alcoholic and he experienced a spiritual awakening. There are contemporary thinkers today that experience spiritual awakenings. Every day we wake up, that is a spiritual awakening. Now that is a physical awakening because we were in our slumber and we were sleeping. And while we were sleeping, and here's another school of thought, while we were sleeping, then our higher self remained connected to the silver cord and we were roaming around. Now, stop right there because I won't even go there because I just went someplace else. The bottom line is that is a philosophy, that what I just said is a philosophy. And the philosophy of bliss, what is paradise, what is bliss, what is Eden, what is happiness, whatever that means to you, then somewhere it involves, in order to reach, in order to attain that level of bliss or harmony or paradise, involves finding a center within oneself. It involves finding a balance. Okay, and how we do that, how you do that, is your business. Really, how you do it. You see people yoga and Pilates, fine. They're doing their way. They're doing what they need to do. Okay. So when you hear me say God, some days I have to really bite my tongue because sometimes I really want to say goddess. And I know that would throw a lot of you off because some individuals don't really think of a higher power as a woman. I'm not saying everybody doesn't think of a higher power as a woman. That's not what I said. I thought I said some individuals don't think of a higher power as a woman. Some individuals, Father, Mother, God. Some individuals relate to the moon. Phyllis Wheatley, which was a poet back in 1700s, she wrote a poem, and part And there was a sentence in the poem that she misses her pagan land. All right. So don't be afraid of whatever it works for you. Whatever works for you. Do not allow fear to be a stumbling block. So I'm saying all of that to say, when someone asks me, why do I use so many different words for God or God or G-D? Why do I use so many words? Because I try to be sensitive to others' beliefs. I try to be sensitive to other people's belief system, because I know that we're all unique in our own way, and we all come to the one in our own way. And as long as we have a sincere heart and are open, then the power that be, or the force within, or there's a word, the movie Transformers, the cars have a higher power. And in the movie Transformers, it's about cars, and they transform from vehicles into walking, talking, something primus. And so that's the car's higher power. Something primus. I can't think of the name of it. But even the car, even in the movie, there's a higher power. You understand? Even in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Caesar is a higher power. Caesar is ruling. Caesar is in control. All right? So do not let the stumbling block of the power, don't let someone else's concept of what they believe a higher power to be your stumbling block. Don't let someone else's being closed down to your concept. Don't let that happen. Okay? Because you did not walk the walk of life and have the experiences that this person had. Okay? You did not go through what this person went through in life. You may understand what they went through. You may be able to relate to what they went through in life, but you don't know what it's like for this person to have gone through what they've gone through or what they're going through. So if they have their own concept or lack thereof, they will find their own way. When I use the word G-D, source of all there is, God the good omnipotent, I'm simply making sure that the message goes out. I'm sensitive to, I'm not saying that other people are not sensitive. That's not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying that I simply want to speak languages that I know that you'll get the message. That's all I'm saying. No more, no less. I think I spent enough time on that. Okay, I gave the computer plenty of time to adjust to the fact that I wanted to do something, and I wanted to do it now. So let us share. I'm entirely ready to remove my stumbling blocks, such as pride, anger, greed, lust, envy, procrastination, malice, forgetting who you are, and fear. Okay. Next, we're entirely ready to be in alignment with all-encompassing good. There's another term, all-encompassing good. All right. There's a heart inside of a heart, and inside that heart is the light of illumination, the light of knowledge, and enlightenment. Next, we have Isaiah 57, chapter 14, verse. And shall say, cast ye up, prepare the way, take up the stumbling block out of the way of my people. And the stumbling block could very well be the word G-D. That could probably be a stumbling block. But don't let it be one. Whatever you feel comfortable, whatever works for you. It's like wearing a dress. If an A-line dress doesn't fit well for you, then you find something else. Guys, if a blue suit doesn't fit for you, try another kind of suit. If suits are not it, then a shirt and a pair of pants. All right? You find what works for you and work it. Okay. Moving right along. Then we have Isaiah 57:14, and he says, heap up the highway, surface the way, heap the stumbling block from the way of my people. And I'm doing this in German only because this is probably be my third or fourth time saying it today, so I'll give you an abbreviated version. I'm doing it in German because English was not spoken on the planet when the Hebrew people were alive, during the stories time of the Bible, the Torah and the Talmud. So by the time all of the different languages, bottom line is English is a Sanskrit language, and it is made up of a lot of other languages. Make a very long story short. So I chose German. So here it is. This is what I'm about to read to you is the Bible verse of but it's going to be in German, okay? And it is, Antje sagt, häufen sich Stimmen Autobahn, Oberfläche, Siahi, der Weg, der Stolperstein. I did this perfectly. Antje sagt, unter sich, häufen sich Stimmen Autobahn, Oberfläche, Siahi, der Weg, der Stolperstein aus dem Weg meines Suhiden. When we read another language, when you speak another language, there's going to be a word somewhere that cannot be translated. If, for example, we went to the party and we were supposed to have, and it was an RSVP party, tie and tails after 5 attire. And so the young man, the person that's accepting all of the invitations, one of us, we're looking for our invitation, we don't have our invitation, and the man who's taking the invitation speaks Russian. Nothing against the Russian, I'm just using this as an example. Out of all of us 5 people in the party, nobody speaks Russian. Happens so someone walks up and they speak Russian and English. The person that speaks Russian and English is an interpreter. So the interpreter wants to know what happened to our invitation, why come we don't have one? So the interpreter realizes it doesn't matter why we don't have it. Our name is there. So we each give our name. The interpreter says and gives them our name. Now, there's going to be a word during the conversation between the person that is accepting the invitations, checking off the list, and the person that's doing the interpreting. Somewhere there's going to be a word that's not part of Russian vernacular or Russian word. When that happens, then the two Russians they will have uh, to explain each other what it was that the five English folk were saying. Somewhere in that translation, there's going to be a kind of like a watering down, if you will. And so it is with the English language. We must understand one thing, if we don't get anything else. This country was, the people that was on this country, this land in the first place, they didn't speak English. Native Americans didn't speak English. English came over here with individuals that came over here on the boats. And quite frankly, the Bible that they had pictures in it. They had pictures in this Bible. So the pictures were interpreted. And also remember one thing, that English during biblical times was not spoken on the planet. I realize that's a hard pill to swallow. I realize that. I could have chose French. I could have chose Ethiopian. I could have chose many languages. Next time I probably will choose Ethiopian. But my only point is I simply wanted to experiment, and don't take it left when I say experiment. I simply wanted to research, what does a Bible verse sound like in another language? And what is the translation of that language into English? Moving briskly, metaphysical meaning of stumbling block. Stumbling blocks at first may seem to be in the physical environment, but closer discernment reveals that they are primarily in the mind. Therefore, we should not put additional weight into the already existing obstacles by filling them with the thought stuff of condemnation. We should not judge others, but should strive to overlook their limitations. We should be aware how we let our zeal to help others interfere with their freedom of choice. Cited source, truthunity.net. Moving right along. 1 John 5th chapter 14th verse, and this is the confidence that we have in him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he will heareth us. Next. Okay, come on. 1 John 5th chapter 14th verse, from the cited source, Modern Masoret text. Phonetically, down here is the translation. Here is this verse in German. This is the way it's written. I have it phonetically so I can read it aloud. And then this is what it means in once it's translated. Und da ist die Faudigkeit, die Wahrhaben suchen, fiat etwas bien nach seinem Wenso hört uns. And this is the confidence that we have in him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. I don't see any significant difference in the two. None whatsoever. No transliteration, no transposing. Abstaining and fasting from negative behavior. Abstaining is the same as fasting. The body or flesh is disciplining itself from usage or engaging in behaviors. While we are abstinent, our spiritual nature is growing, expanding, and evolving. We are nurturing our spirit. The spiritual discipline of applying the principles in our lives restores all aspects of our life and continued existence, our world and affairs. So we find a balance through spiritual work. We find a balance in family. We find a balance in work. And we find a balance in whatever spiritual practice we believe in. And when we find that balance, we have a balanced life. Moving right along. Going into 9 o'clock on the East Coast. I'm trying to hurry it up. Women pioneers in New Thought history. On the left, you have Annie Ricks Millets, 1856-1924. On the right, Harriet Hale Ricks. They are sisters. And they founded the Home of Truth, which was and is, it still stands, a New Thought metaphysical college. It teaches the theories and philosophies of metaphysics. Another woman, New Thought historian and teacher, is Florence Scovel Shinn, born September 24th, 1871, transitioned October 17th, 1940. She is an American artist and book illustrator who became a New Thought spiritual teacher and metaphysical writer in her middle years. Florence Scovel Shinn is an early influence of Louise Hay. Some of us may have heard of Louise Hay. She is a contemporary metaphysician. And Empower Your Life is one of the complete works of Florence Scovel Shinn. Next, we have a woman by the name of, if she doesn't come up now, she'll be up later. Defects of character, pride, positive appreciation of an accomplishment. That's if it's used from a positive aspect. If it's used from a negative aspect, ego-based barrier which blocks one's good. Anger, a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. Greed, intense and selfish desire for something, especially wealth, power, or food. Lust, very strong sexual desire. Envy, a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. Procrastination, the action of delaying or postponing something. I find it curious that the word procrastination and action are in the same vein. Malice, the intention or desire to do evil or ill will. Suffering, the primary cause is forgetfulness, forgetting who I am. Fear, an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain, or feel that they are a threat to one's livelihood, life, and well-being. Moving briskly, an addiction is cunning, baffling, and powerful, which it is. Here is the trigger. Let's say the trigger is sex, and a lot of it, all the time. And the person craves sex all the time. Like in the movie 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah, I'm going there. This is my third time trying this today, so I can go there at this point. All right. So when you have the craving, you come up with a healthy habit. When you have an emotional trigger of sex and you have the craving for it, your healthy habit. If you don't have a healthy habit, boom, then you find your avenues and your rituals of finding a sex partner until you begin to engage. We're all adults until you begin to engage in sex. Then when you have engaged in the behavior, then you find yourself feeling guilty about using sex as an outlet. You find yourself feeling guilty. All right. So to avoid feeling guilty, the emotional trigger, to avoid feeling guilty, to avoid engaging in the behavior, to avoid the ritual of getting dressed up and going out and finding somebody, or going on the website or whatever it is you do to find somebody, instead of going through all of that, when you have the craving, then you engage in a healthy habit. All right, moving right along. The next slide is the only difference between stumbling blocks and stepping stones is the way in which we use them. Admitting that you're powerless. Came to believe that a power greater than myself. Made a decision. Inventory. Admitting to someone. admitting to someone, and entirely ready to move to have our defects of character removed. All right. Or you can look at it as faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, willingness, order, enthusiasm, elimination, and life. These are stepping stones. If you say they're stumbling blocks, then that's what they are. If you say they're stepping stones, that's what they are. Only you know what they are. Moving right along, we have at this point, right thinking leads to right outcome, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Then we have, moving right along, I'm reading from the PowerPoints at this point. Questions, questions, questions. Do we have any questions whatsoever at this point? I must say, after the third try, it's a breeze. So that's a good thing. It took three tries to get this. Earlier today, I was at the library, and then I had lunch, and then I came home. My lunch consisted of, I pigged out. If I didn't tell you what it was, let me tell you what it was. I stopped over at Dunkin' Donuts. I may have already said it. Anyway, I stopped over at Dunkin' Donuts, and they have the bestest tuna salad sandwiches on croissant. So I bought two, and I've already eaten them, but I didn't have their coffee. I came home and brought and made my own coffee. Folgers, half and half. Delicious, with hazelnut cream. Moving right along. Okay, so we don't have any questions, right? Okay, so we're going to go, because we have just a few minutes left, and so I want to make sure that I remain in compliance. I remain in compliance. Here we go. Okay. All right, so we have no questions. All right. There's a call to action. And the call to action is threefold. 1, know that you are worthy. 2, become entirely ready to use the stepping stones to reach your good. 3, for the next 30 days, I ought to have put consecutive. For the next 30 days, as many times per day as possible, say this affirmation. We're entirely ready to be in alignment with all encompassing good. We're entirely ready to be in alignment with all encompassing good. Say it with me. We're entirely ready to be in alignment with all encompassing good. One last time, like you mean it. We're entirely ready to be in alignment with all encompassing good. Remember, the universe hears us. And fourthly, journal, journal, journal every day. The next slide is my favorite. What is your stumbling block? The Bible and the church have been the greatest stumbling blocks in the way of women's impact. The Bible and the church have been the greatest stumbling blocks, I mean greatest, in the way of women's emancipation by Her Highness Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Elizabeth Cady Stanton is the author, one of the authors. She's a co-author. There were 26 other co-authors with her, and she wrote co-authored the Woman's Bible. Yes, she did. You Google Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and then put Women's Bible in there, and then you will see the fine work that she has done with the Woman's Bible. Moving briskly, then we have almost done. Almost done. Oh, I'm so determined. Regarding fasting. Regarding fasting. When we modify our eating habits physically, then we have a physical change in our life, a modification in our life. When we modify our spiritual intake, then modification of our spiritual intake can change your life. All right? So one script could be out of the book of the Bible, but you could find scripts out of the Bhagavad Gita. You could find scripts out of Native American ways. As a matter of fact, I guess I'll start using more of them. From Isaiah 57:14, and shall say, cast ye up, prepare the way, take up the stumbling block out of the way of my people. Okay? You are going to remove the thoughts and the concept and consciousness of stumbling blocks and replace them with the truth that you have the ability for stepping stones. I just want to say this one little thing. One of my spiritual teachers, she's on another realm now, Reverend Dr. Mary Ann Tumpkin. When I initially began to attend the center, that center is not where it is now. Now it's on 213th Northwest 37th. But before then, it was, I'd say, it was in front of the expressway, storefront in front of the expressway. I'd say 180 something street. I may be wrong. But the first day, the first few Sundays, even when there was something called Adventures in Faith, and that's when I first started going. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything about anything. But there was this one word she continued to use over and over and over and over again, and she drilled that word in our head. That word is consciousness. When you change, when you modify the way you think, your whole life will begin to change. When you are face to face with someone and they have a different level of consciousness and the two of you don't see eye to eye, that is not the opportunity to argue. That is the opportunity. That is a test for you to be open to their consciousness. You do not have to agree with their consciousness. You have your own consciousness, and it's all about modifying and changing and coming on board with an updated level of consciousness. Now, stop right there. Putting it in another vernacular, get rid of the old software and upload some new software and learn how to work the new software, okay? Because holding on to the old ideas, all it's going to do is just get you upset. You're going to have live a life all by yourself. For what? So if I didn't learn, and I learned a lot from Reverend Mary, but the first few weeks, Adventures in Faith, consciousness. It's all about consciousness. That woman would stand there and pound that desk, consciousness. And I'm going to pass that word on to you. Prepare the way by fasting and abstaining. And you abstain from a negative level of consciousness, and you adopt by way of steps and by way of spiritual principles another level of consciousness. Doing that will change your life. Reverend Mary, thank you very much. I know you on a positive realm, and I want to thank you so much. Some of you know who I'm talking about. Moving right along. right view. Again, let's review. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Did I leave anything out? Did I leave anything at all out? Going once, going twice. Are there any questions, comments, afterthoughts, front thoughts, back thoughts, in between thoughts? Hello? This is it, because in a couple of weeks, we're going to be on step 8. Okay? And that is brotherly love, sisterly love, unconditional love, consciousness. Okay? All of these steps and principles involve consciousness. Some of us was paying attention in the audience when she was speaking. All of us was not asleep. And there was no way you was going to sleep when Reverend Mary was pounding on that desk, talking about consciousness. And if all of us around the world would practice a basic, simple principle of getting your ego out of the way and just being open to the dialogue and letting everybody have their own opinion, and you don't have to be right about everything. Consciousness, awareness, just being aware of yourself, just being aware of yourself. The heck with somebody else. You have to learn yourself first. All right, so learn how to save yourself. All right, forget about trying to save somebody. Save yourself. Flee en masse from destruction. Having all that said, I hope the sound works. I hope everything works, because this is a straight up rap. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the very presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. This is so, and so it is. Namaste.